Hi, my name is Teacher Ben. Today we are going to listen to a story. So this is called story listening. Now, for story listening, we have 2 rules for you to follow. So there will be 2 rules for story listening. The 2 rules are, number 1, you need to listen. You need to listen to the story. Rule number 2, for the story will be here on a whiteboard or chalkboard. So please, you need to look. You need to look during the story. So our 2 rules for story listening are please listen and look. And I hope that you enjoy the story. Hi, welcome to another virtual Teachers on the Go lesson with me, Teacher Ben. Today we will have a story. The name of the story is Mr. Cake and Miss Cheese. So we have Mr. Cake and Miss Cheese. Let's get started. A long time ago, there were 2 people. 2 people. The 2 people, they lived in a kitchen. The 2 people lived in a kitchen. We can say 2 people or 1 person. So 1 person lived in the oven. 1 person lived in the oven. And the other person lived in the, this is a refrigerator. Now, in the oven lived Mr. Cake. Here are Mr. Cake's eyes, his mouth. Mr. Cake says hello. Here is Mr. Cake. Mr. Cake lived in the oven. Now sometimes Mr. Cake at night, he would open the oven and go into the kitchen. He would open the oven, go into the kitchen, and Mr. Cake, he liked to fa la 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 la. In the kitchen, he liked to sing. And sometimes he would open the oven, go into the kitchen, and he would dance. He would dance in the kitchen. But one day, Mr. Cake was in the kitchen and he looked. Whoa! He saw the refrigerator. Mr. Cake had never been to the refrigerator. So Mr. Cake said, Tonight I will go to the refrigerator. So that night, Mr. Cake, he opened the oven, he walked to the refrigerator. Mr. Cake opened the refrigerator and wow! Mr. Cake said, "Oh my God! Oh my God!" When he opened the refrigerator, Mr. Cake, he saw Miss Cheese. Here's our cheese. Here is her mouth, her eyes, her feet, her shoes. This is Miss Cheese. Mr. Cake, he sees Miss Cheese, and whoa, doof. Mr. Cake says, "Oh my God, Miss Cheese, you are so beautiful. Miss Cheese, I love you." Mr. Cake gets an idea. Mr. Cake, he gets on one knee and he says, "Miss Cheese, I love you. Please marry me. Marry me." So dun 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 dun. Please. He says, "Please, Miss Cheese, please marry me." Miss Cheese looks at Mr. Cake and she says, "No, go away. Go away." Oh, this makes Mr. Cake very sad. Mr. Cake, he walks back to the oven, and that night, Mr. Cake, he cries. He cries all night. But every day, Mr. Cake, he looks good. He opens the oven, walks to the refrigerator, opens the refrigerator and says, "Please, Miss Cheese, I love you. You're so beautiful. Please, marry me. Please." And every day, Miss Cheese says, "No, go away. I don't love you." Now this happens every day for 3 years. 3 years. 3 years. And after 3 years, Miss Cheese, Miss Cheese, she starts to think. She thinks maybe this is true love. True love. Maybe Mr. Cake really loves me. So just like every day, Mr. Cake comes to Miss Cheese to say, "Please, Miss Cheese, please marry me." And on this day, Miss Cheese looks at Mr. Cake and says, okay. She says, okay. And they reach out their hands and hallelujah. Now, they are Mr. and Mrs. Cheesecake. Mr. and Mrs. Cheesecake. Now, Mrs. Cheesecake, she has a baby. A baby. And the baby is a baby cheesecake. A cheesecake baby. The end. I hoped that you enjoyed the story. Now we have an activity to follow the story. This activity is called a picture summary. A picture summary means you draw what happened in the story. When we think of a story, we can think of a story like a mountain. There are 4 parts to our mountain. Number 1, this is the beginning, the start of a story. Number 2, this is the problem in the story. Number 3 is the solution. Did we fix the problem or not? And number 4 is the end. So we take our story mountain and we are going to draw it in a picture summary. Please watch. For our picture summary, we will have 4 boxes. So you can draw on your paper box number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Remember, box number 1, this is the beginning. What happened at the beginning of the story? Number 2, what was the story problem? Number 3, what was the solution to the problem? And number 4, how did the story end? I would like you to take some time to try making a picture summary for the story you just listened to, and then we will come back and you will see an example of my picture summary for this story. Please begin. Welcome back. Now let's take a look at my picture summary example for our story, Mr. Cake and Miss Cheese. The beginning of our story, we have 2 people. They live in a kitchen, one in the oven, and one in the refrigerator. And the oven is Mr. Cake, and the refrigerator is Miss Cheese. The problem in our story is Mr. Cake, he really loves Miss Cheese. And he asks her to please marry me. But Miss Cheese says no. But after 3 years, Miss Cheese thinks maybe this is true love. So when Mr. Cake asks, will you marry me? Miss Cheese says, okay. They get married. So now we have Mr. and Mrs. Mr. and Mrs. Cheesecake. The end of our story is Mrs. Cheesecake has a baby, and it is a baby cheesecake. I hope you liked our story today and our picture summary example. Please feel free to post pictures of your students' picture summary examples to our CRP website. And stay tuned for more digital lessons. Bye-bye.